Welcome to Restoria. I'm Jenna, and this is your cozy corner for gentle bedtime stories. Each night, I'll share peaceful tales made to quiet your thoughts and guide you softly into sleep. So settle in, get comfy, and let the story carry you into rest. The story tonight is called The Shoe Repair Shop. Chapter 1. The door with a painted sign. The sun has just begun its slow descent behind the rooftops, casting a long amber hush over the narrow street. Most of the shops have already dimmed their lights, drawn their blinds, and closed up for the night. But one window still glows. The glass is a little fogged, softening the light from within into a gentle haze. Above the door, in hand-painted letters that curve like a lullaby, the sign reads, Milo's Shoe Repair. Outside, the air is cool with that faint metallic scent that sometimes comes in the early evening, a quiet signal that the day is nearly done. A few leaves rustle along the pavement. Somewhere far off, a bell chimes. Ivy stands just beyond the door, one hand resting in the pocket of her coat, the other curled around the handle of a cloth bag. The bag is worn. Inside, nestled quietly, are her boots. They're not elegant boots, not particularly stylish, but they've walked with her through rain puddles and early frosts, up wooded trails and over city cobblestone. The soles are scuffed, the laces are frayed, and yet she has kept them, not because of how they look, but because of how they've stayed. She pushes the door open gently. A warm bell rings overhead, not loud, but round and slow, like a small voice saying hello. Inside, the air wraps around her like a soft shawl. It smells of old leather and polish, beeswax and pine, the kind of smell that speaks in quiet memories, even if you don't know exactly what they are. The light is amber and low. A little fire glows in the corner stove. Shadows move gently on the wall. At the heart of the room sits a man with quiet eyes and a steady rhythm. Milo. He doesn't look up right away, just finishes the careful press of a sole into a waiting shoe. Tap tap, brush, a soft pull of thread. Then he looks up and smiles. Ivy offers the bag without speaking. Milo accepts it with a nod, his hands worn and careful, his gestures slow and certain. He doesn't ask why. She's kept them. He never asked her. Instead, he opens the bag, takes out the boots, and turns them in his hands as if greeting an old friend. The left sole peels just a little at the toe. One of the heels is worn at an angle. The leather creases where time has bent it. Still, he says only, "You can sit," and she does. The chair is wooden and a little low, but its cushion is soft and dimpled with age. Beside it, a small table holds a lamp with a shade, the color of tea. Milo works in the quiet. He doesn't hum, doesn't speak, just begins with a cloth in one hand and a tin of something that smells faintly of oranges and clove. The sounds are soft, brushing, tapping, the whisper of leather giving way to care. Ivy breathes out slowly. Her shoulders begin to lower. The air in the shop is still, not stiff, just restful. Through the front window, dusk leans in. A clock ticks somewhere above the door. The fire in the stove shifts with a quiet pop. Somewhere deeper in the shop, a drawer opens, then closes again. The cadence of this place is not unlike breath. Milo glances up just once and says, "You've taken good care of me." Ivy gives a small smile, almost to herself. "They've taken care of me." He nods, then goes back to work, and the world outside, the rushing, the brightness, the tangle of things, begins to feel very far away. Here, there is only the hush of repair, the warmth of lamplight, and the gentle attention of someone who mends things, not just to fix them, but to honor the quiet way they've held on. And for tonight, that is more than enough. Chapter 2, Old Hands and Quiet Tools. The boots sit on the low counter now, their soles upturned like hands open to receive. Milo moves with a kind of patience that feels like listening. His tools are neatly laid out beside him. Not many, just enough. There is something almost sacred in the arrangement. A wooden handled awl, a small hammer with a soft polished head, a set of brushes worn to familiar shapes. Each item knows its place, and Milo's fingers find them without searching. Ivy watches from her chair, legs tucked loosely beneath her, hands folded in her lap. The silence isn't awkward. It holds them like a blanket pulled up over the shoulders. Milo begins to gently tug at the heel of one boot. The leather resists just slightly, then yields. He nods to himself. Good stitching, he murmurs, almost to the boot. The sun outside is almost gone now. The last bit of golden light slips across the wooden floor where it catches on the rim of a tin full of little nails. They glint like stars waiting for a night sky. Ivy's breathing slows. The steady rhythm of Milo's work draws her deeper into stillness. Tap tap, a pause, a second tap. The sound is so soft it barely registers, yet it anchors the room, steady and kind. She finds her gaze drawn to a shelf above the workbench. Little boxes, all different, each with a small label. Laces waxed, eyelets brass, buckles assorted, each word handwritten, the ink slightly faded. It reminds her of a kitchen she once sat in as a child. A winter morning, the clink of a spoon in a mug, steam rising, the safe clatter of jars filled with tea leaves and cinnamon stick. Milo doesn't interrupt her thoughts. He doesn't ask questions or fill the air. He simply brushes, wipes, taps, and mends. A drawer slides open with a soft wooden sigh. From it, Milo lifts a small cloth bundle and unfolds it to reveal new heels. Not too new, just right. He holds them to the light, comparing. Then he nods once more and sets to work. Had a boy come in once, he says quietly, his voice as worn and smooth as the soles he works on. Dancer, brought me shoes with the toes worn through to the lining. Ivy smiles faintly. From the dancing, Milo nods. Joy'll do that. Wear things out faster than sorrow. Sometimes the sound of the hammer returns, not rushed, just rhythmic. It feels like an old clock ticking beside a bed. Ivy leans her head against the back of the chair. Her eyes wander to the coat rack by the door, where someone has hung a scarf striped with earth colors. No one claims it. It seems content to stay. The room deepens with evening. Milo strikes a match and lights the second lamp on the workbench. Its glow is golden, soft, like the inside of a shell. Outside, the street is a quiet ribbon. The world has gone gentle. Inside, the mending continues, stitch by stitch, tap by tap, and Ivy, without meaning to, lets herself rest in the space between those sounds. No need to speak, no need to move, only the hush of old hands, quiet tools, and the simple kindness of something being made whole again. Chapter 3, The Driftwood Clock. A quiet moment passes, then another. They gather like soft feathers settling, each one light and almost imperceptible, but together they make a stillness that holds. The boots now rest with new heels, the leather softened with balm. Milo has stepped away for a moment, not far, just into the back room where a kettle lives on a small burner. Ivy hears it begin to hum. The shop hums too, not with machines, but with life. The tick of a clock above the doorway, the low crackle from the stove, the occasional creak of old floorboards as the walls stretch and settle into night. She lets her gaze wander, tracing the shelves that line the walls. Each holds something different, something worn and well loved. A wooden shoe form, rounded with years, rolls of leather tied with twine, a tiny framed photo of a much younger Milo standing outside this very shop, his smile more boyish, but the shape of him the same. Her eyes drift up to the clock. It's not like others, its face is uneven, its frame made from pieces of driftwood worn smooth by the sea. The numbers are soft, hand-painted in uneven ink. Its hands move with a quiet deliberation. The clock doesn't tick loudly. It doesn't need to. Time here isn't a thing that urges forward. It's a thing that lingers, like steam curling from a teacup. Milo returns, holding two mismatched mugs. One is pale blue with a crack near the rim. The other, deep brown with a chipped handle. Chamomile, he says, offering her the blue one. Nothing fancy. She wraps her hands around the cup and nods. The warmth seeps in slowly. He sits on the stool across from her, not quite facing her, but near. They sip in silence. The taste is soft and floral, with something a little sweet underneath honey, maybe, or a memory. Ivy glances again at the clock. That's not a usual kind of clock. Milo smiles into his mug. Came from a friend. Used to walk beaches, looking for bits of what the sea gave back. She nods. It's kind. He lets the sound rest between them. Most things here are, or try to be. There's no need to explain what that means. The room itself seems to understand. A gentle gust of wind brushes the window. Outside, the street has quieted to almost nothing. No footsteps, no wheels, just the occasional whisper of air against glass. Inside, the lamplight is steady. It glows against the grain of the wooden counter, catching on tiny grooves and worn edges, the kind of marks that only years can make, that tell you something was not just used, but loved. Milo sets his mug down and leans back, looking not at Ivy, but toward the rows of shoes waiting in neat lines by the wall. Some shoes wait a long time, he says softly. People forget, or they move, or they leave things behind and aren't quite ready to come back. She follows his gaze. There's a pair of glossy black Oxfords, neatly polished. A child's red boot, just one. A pair of green sandals, still with sand caught in the stitching. They look patient, she murmurs. Milo chuckles under his breath. Shoes tend to be. He lifts one of the boots he's repaired and runs his hand gently along the side, smoothing the curve with the quiet tenderness of someone saying goodbye. Ivy takes another sip of tea. Her fingers are warmer now, her shoulders looser. The driftwood clock ticks on, slow and steady, its hands moving with the pace of breath, and for a while neither of them speak. They simply sit in the glow of a room that does not rush, with shoes that do not hurry, and a clock that remembers how to wait. Chapter 4. Whispers of leather. The hour has slipped past unnoticed. In Milo's shop, time is less of a master and more of a guest welcome, but never insistent. The mugs are now empty, their warmth remembered more by the palms than the cups themselves. Ivy leans back slightly in her chair, feeling the way her body has begun to soften into the shape of rest. She's not tired exactly, just uncoiled, as though something within her has set down its tools too. Milo returns to the counter. He places one boot carefully on a wooden stand, then reaches for a slender, curved tool. The motion is familiar to him, so familiar it seems more memory than action. There's a sound that comes from leather when it's worked gently, a kind of whisper, not quite a creak, not quite a sigh, something in between. The sound of something relaxing into being cared for. He pulls new laces through the worn eyelets, slow and even, as if threading a thought. Had a man bring in dancing slippers once, he says after a while, voice low and soft. Said they belonged to his sister. She was gone, but the shoes, they still remembered. Ivy watches as he ties the first boot. The bow is neat but not strict, a gentle knot. He didn't want them restored exactly, Milo continues. Just sing. The shop holds the story like cupped hands. It doesn't echo, doesn't demand. It just receives. Ivy's eyes wander again, this time to a small alcove near the back. There's a narrow shelf with a row of leather-bound notebooks, each one different, some thick, some thin, a few tied with string. One has a pressed sprig of lavender tucked beneath its strap. She gestures gently. Do you write? Milo doesn't look up. A little note, bits of things, memories maybe, like the shoes. He smiles, faintly, like the shoes. The light from the second lamp is softening now, dimming a little as the night deepens. Shadows stretch longer along the wall. The glow from the stove has taken on a quieter hue. No longer flame, but ember. There's a drawer beneath the workbench that Ivy hadn't noticed before. Milo opens it slowly, revealing rows of tiny envelopes, each labeled in a looping script. Bits of stories, he says, tapping one gently. Names, moments, just fragments, but they stay with me. He draws one out, a pale yellow envelope marked Raincoat Boy, Tuesday afternoons. He sets it aside, then closes the drawer again. They all meant something once. Still do, I suppose. His voice is like an old song, nothing grand, but familiar and true. Milo begins on the second boot, brushes away the last bits of dust, smooths the leather along the side. His hands pause just slightly, as if listening. It's always in the leather, he says. It holds things, steps, rain, joy, the weight of standing still. Ivy feels something shift inside her, not sharp, not sudden, more like a window opened in a room she didn't know was closed. She thinks of the boots as they were when she brought them in dull, tired, with little pebbles still caught in the tread. She hadn't planned to come here tonight. It had just felt right. Milo threads the final lace through and ties it, mirroring the first. His fingers rest briefly on the top of the boot, then release. There, he murmurs. They've remembered themselves. Ivy nods. Her throat feels warm, Silence returns, not to fill the space, but to settle gently within it. The boots are no longer the same, not just cleaner, not just repaired, but somehow steadier, as though they know they are still meant to go on. Milo returns to his chair and lifts the mug again, forgetting it's empty. He chuckles, quiet and low. Some things you hold on to even after they've gone cold. Outside, the wind taps once against the window pane. Ivy listens, not for anything in particular, just for the sound of being here, of soft leather and quieter heart, of kindness done slowly, of stories that don't need telling to be known. In the quiet, Ivy reaches into her coat pocket and pulls out a small scrap of paper. A name and a date written in ink, slightly blurred by time. She folds it again, more slowly this time, and places it on the counter beside the booth. Milo doesn't touch it, doesn't ask. He simply nods, as if the gesture itself were enough, and perhaps it is. Chapter 5. The Cobbler's Light. Night deepens outside the shop, folding gently over the rooftops and settling into the seams of the street. The sky is the color of quiet ink, and every few minutes a soft breeze brushes by, nudging the chime that hangs just outside the door. Its voice is high and glassy, a whisper, not a call. Inside, the light remains steady, not bright, not dim, but warm, the kind of light that doesn't chase shadows away, just keeps them company. It pools on the wooden floor and spills gently across the counter, catching on the curve of Ivy's repaired boots. Milo moves with less urgency now, which is saying something. Even his slow has slowed. He gathers tools, brushes, small bits of thread, each thing placed back where it belongs, but without haste, as if putting the day to rest. Ivy stands, just a little, to stretch. The motion is small, almost lazy, like a cat uncurling after a nap. She doesn't reach for the boots, not yet. Instead, she crosses slowly to the shelves behind the counter. Do people ever come back? She asks, her voice soft from disuse. Milo looks up, considering. Sometimes, not always for their shoes. Sometimes, just for the quiet. She traces her fingers over a small brass buckle resting on the edge of a wooden tray. It's cool beneath her touch, solid, the kind of thing that might outlast every plan made around it. I think I understand that, she says. Milo doesn't answer right away. He watches her in the way he watches you, not to judge, but to notice. The stove in the corner pops softly. A little hush follows. Then Milo rises from his stool and moves to a cabinet beside the window. From it, he lifts a lantern, its glass smudged, its handle wrapped with worn cloth. He lights it with a match that flares briefly, then settles into a small golden flame. The lantern's glow joins the others, rounding the shadows at the edges of the room. It's what I call the cobbler's light, he says, setting it near the boots. A bit of extra light for work that goes beyond the day. Ivy smiles, stepping closer. The flame flickers gently, as if nodding to her. Do you still use it often? Milo nods. Sometimes you don't finish when the world does. Some mending takes moonlight. They stand there together, not touching, not speaking, just watching the light curl against the wood grain. Outside, a car passes slowly down the street. Its headlights do not pierce the shop. The windows hold the night gently at bay. Milo turns, reaches for a notebook from the shelf. He flips it open to a blank page, lifts a pencil. What was the name? He asks. Ivy doesn't need to look. Hazel, March 19. He writes it down with care. Just those two things. No need for more. The pencil makes a soft hush as it moves. When he finishes, he closes the notebook and places it back. Some stories don't need retelling, he says. Just a place to rest. Ivy nods. Her eyes sting, but she doesn't cry. She just lets herself breathe. And beside them, the cobbler's light flickers on small, steady, and full of enough warmth to carry something gently forward. Milo steps back from the notebook and crosses to the window. He opens it slightly, letting in the scent of cool night air, a mix of stone, leaves, and something faintly sweet, like old lilac. The curtain stirs, slow as a breath. It's always quietest around this time, he says. Not just outside, in here too. Ivy follows him to the window. The world outside feels wrapped in wool. A cat moves across a wall, pausing briefly to look back at nothing. You get used to the quiet? She asks. I learn from it, he replies. For a moment, there's no sound but the wind through the half-open pane, the whisper of a lantern flame, the hush of two people keeping company in the kindest way just by staying. Milo places his hand gently on the windowsill, fingers splayed. Sometimes the quiet says more than words ever could. Ivy nods, leaning slightly into the space beside him, and there they remain, two still figures inside a small shop where the light stays long and the stories, even untold, are never lost. Chapter 6. Forgotten Pairs. The night has settled its weight over the town now, soft and sure. The shop feels like a hidden cove, sheltered, slow, and wrapped in something older than time. Milo's lantern burns low, its glow more ember than flame, casting rounded shadows that sway like breath. Ivy steps away from the window and wanders deeper into the shop. Not far, just enough to stand in front of the wall of shoes. Dozens of pairs, all waiting, some neatly boxed, others perched gently on open shelves. Each one carries its own kind of stillness. Do you ever forget who they belong to? She asks, fingertips brushing a well-loved pair of brogues. Milo approaches quietly, standing beside her. Sometimes, but mostly they tell me. She glances at him. The shoes. He smiles softly. Not in words, just in weight, in where the creases fall, in how they were left. She nods. It makes sense in the way dreams make sense. Not always linear, but true. There's a small set of slippers tucked on the bottom shelf, faded blue, embroidered with tiny vines. They look as though someone left them off just before curling into bed and never needed them again. Milo crouches beside them, lifts one tenderly. These were never meant for rain or road, he says. They were house shoes, quiet shoes, full of lullabies. Ivy sits on the wooden stool nearby, her eyes tracing the line of soles above her. Heavy work boots with deep scuffs, velvet heels, the strap still twisted. A single child's sandal, pink and faded. I like that they're not forgotten, she says. They aren't, Milo replies. They're resting. That's different. He straightens, slowly setting the slipper back with care. There's a reverence to his movement, the same as someone straightening a frame on a wall or tucking in the edge of a blanket. Sometimes people come back for them, he continues. Years later, sometimes not, but I think the shoes are patient. Ivy's gaze lingers on a pair of green rain boots. One has a tiny daisy drawn on the heel in faded marker. She wonders about the child who wore them, about puddles and skipping, and how something so simple could echo so long. A small breath catches in her chest, not from sadness exactly, but from the strange fullness of it all. They carry so much, she whispers. They do, Milo agrees. And they ask for so little in return. He walks slowly to the stove, stokes it with a few careful pieces of wood. The fire responds with a low glow, warm, steady. Ivy doesn't speak. She simply watches him, then turns back to the shoes. They are quiet companions, all of them, like chapters from stories not yet written down, waiting in their lines for someone to remember. She notices a shoebox tucked into the farthest corner of the shelf. It's older, the edges softened, the lid slightly askew. Curiosity brings her to kneel before it. Milo doesn't stop her. Inside are a pair of men's slippers, thick-soled, corduroy-lined, with the kind of wear that says they were once someone's daily comfort. Resting on top is a folded note, yellowed and thin. She looks up at Milo, who only nods. Go on. She opens the note slowly. The handwriting is simple and neat, for when the mornings get too cold and I am not there to warm them first. Ivy exhales, quiet and long. She places the note back as she found it, closes the lid with gentle hands. He never came back for them? No, Milo says. But he left warmth behind. They stand in silence for a while longer. No need to name what they feel. The shoes have already said it, and in this shop, with its soft clocks and woven silence, they are never truly lost. Only waiting. Chapter 7. Closing time. The fire in the stove has settled into a bed of quiet coal. They pulse now and then, the slow heartbeat of light in the corner of the shop. The air feels like a blanket warmed by story, not heavy, not stale, just full. Milo moves with familiar slowness through the room, checking the windows, straightening a drawer, nudging the lantern back from the edge of the counter. These aren't chores, they're gestures, rituals that bring the day to a close. Ivy lingers near the wall of shoes, her fingers still trailing along edges, brushing fabric and leather. It feels like leaving a quiet room in a dream, like saying goodbye to something you didn't know was listening. Milo picks up her boots. the ones now mended, now soft and ready. He places them in a cloth bag, not the old one she brought in, but a fresh one from a low shelf. The fabric is thick, the drawstring soft cotton. A small kindness, a quiet upgrade. He hands her the bag without a word. She accepts it the same way. I didn't expect to stay this long, she murmurs, looking around. Milo shrugs gently. Some visits aren't about the hour. Outside, the chime sings once a single crystalline note, lifted on the night wind. The street beyond the door is hushed, painted with lamplight and shadows. Ivy glances toward it, then back. Will you still be here? His eyes crinkle, always, in one way or another. She breathes in slowly, letting the scent of the shop settle in her chest. Pine, polish, old smoke, and the faint sweetness of something like orange and clove. She knows she will remember it. Do you ever get lonely? She asks. Milo's gaze wanders toward the shoes, the books, the stove, the old stool, the clock. No, he says. Everything here keeps company, even the quiet. She nods. Her voice is small. It does feel like the quiet here holds things. It does, he agrees. Sometimes more than people can. There's a pause. Ivy walks once more through the shop, a slow and quiet goodbye. She touches the edge of the stool where she sat, smooths a slight wrinkle in the cushion, runs her hand across the wooden counter where the boots had been, as though thanking it too, at a small corkboard by the back door. She notices a row of old postcards. Some are faded, nearly too white, others bright with age, still pinned with rusted tacks. A beach scene, a snowy mountain, a city skyline at night. She turns to Milo. Did they send these? He nods. Some wrote, some didn't. But when they do, I keep them. Ivy smiles. I like that. Proof of the journey. She pauses by a dusty cabinet near the register and opens it gently. Inside are several ledgers, some bound in old leather, others covered in fabric, faded by sun and time. She lifts one, flips carefully through its pages. Names, dates, small notes. One simply reads, left with a laugh, promised to dance again. Milo watches her from the doorway, not interrupting, just Witnessing, she places the ledger back and closes the cabinet with care, her fingertips lingering a second longer. Before leaving the cabinet, Ivy adds something to the edge of one page, just a small pressed flower from her coat pocket. A forget-me-not, pressed between old receipts. She tucks it gently into the spine. Something to leave behind, she whispers. Milo says nothing, but his eyes soften. He moves toward the door, not to rush her, but just to stand beside it. He unlocks it gently, the latch clicking like a whisper. Ivy joins him. Her boots thump softly under the cloth. She holds them close. "Thank you," she says. Milo only nods. "Take care of them. Let them take care of you." She smiles. "I will." He opens the door. Cool air touches her cheeks. The street stretches out like a ribbon, waiting to be walked. And behind her, as the door closes with a soft click, the shop breathes in, still lit, still warm, still waiting. Chapter 8. New Steps. The street is quiet beneath Ivy's feet. The sound of her steps is softened by the cloth bag she carries, and by the hour itself, a time when the world has exhaled and tucked itself in. The shop door rests behind her now, closed but never shut. She walks slowly, her breath visible in the cool night air, rising and fading like small sighs. The city is not asleep, not entirely. A dog barks 2 streets over. A kitchen window glows with someone's late tea. A bus hums past in the distance, its lights a gentle wash across ivy-covered walls. She doesn't know exactly where she's walking. Just forward, just onward. At a small square, not far from the shop, Ivy finds a bench beneath an old elm. She sits. The bag rests beside her. She opens it slowly, draws out the boots. They look different now, not because of the polish or the repairs, though those are there, but because they seem steady, like they are no longer simply footwear, but something more. She presses her palm to one and the other, closes her eyes, hears the soft echo of the shop again, the brushing, the tapping, the quiet voice telling stories, not to explain, but to soothe. A breeze moves past her, carrying the scent of something familiar, wax and cedar, embers and leather. She smiles into the night. She pulls off her worn shoes, the ones that brought her to Milo's, and slips her feet into the boots. they fit. Of course they do. But more than that, they welcome her, as though they remember the shape of her steps. Standing again, Ivy feels the difference. Not lighter, not heavier, just held. She walks, not hurried, not slow, just enough through the square, past the bakery with its darkened ovens, past the flower shop that smells faintly of eucalyptus even at night, and every step feels like something new beginning. Not in a grand way, not in a way that calls attention to itself, but in the way a page turns, the way a kettle begins to warm. She thinks for just a moment of leaving a note, something small, a folded paper slipped beneath the shop door. But she knows she doesn't need to. He will remember. The shoes will remember. In this shop, the warm place with fogged windows and the hush of careful work will remember too. The stars appear overhead, gentle and unworried. Ivy walks beneath them, each step a quiet continuation, and somewhere far behind her, in the flickering glow of the cobbler's light, a clock ticks gently on.